My evil boss fired me, but after few months they're begging me to return after major loss. I still remember the day I got fired. It was almost surreal, like something out of a bad dream. I worked at this retail company for 3 long years, gave them my all. I was there from the start when they first opened their doors, and I was one of the last original workers standing. I never thought it would end the way it did. To give you some background, this job wasn't glamorous by any means. It was retail, after all, but I was loyal. I stuck around because I genuinely liked the people I worked with. My co-workers felt more like family than colleagues. We bonded over the shared misery of long hours, dealing with difficult customers, and being constantly overworked and underpaid. But still, I stayed for them. And then that one day happened. I had been training a new hire, and they had me working at a station that wasn't even part of my job description. I was lost, confused, and completely out of my depth. On top of that, I was already feeling burned out, exhausted from being stretched too thin for too long. It was one of those evenings where everything just seemed to go wrong. I was alone in the store, trying to train this new kid, and we were swamped. The workload was overwhelming, and to make matters worse, I hadn't even been trained properly on the tasks they assigned me that day. The clock ticked away, and I could feel the frustration building inside me like a pressure cooker about to explode. Finally, I made the decision to close the store about 15 minutes early. Honestly, at that point, I was too tired to care. The phone had been ringing, but I didn't even notice it until later. When I finally picked up, it was my boss. I could barely get a word in before they were screaming at me, berating me for closing early. I knew I was in the wrong, sure, but the way they handled it was brutal. It was like the final straw. I was already at my wit's end, dealing with an insane workload, minimal pay, and the constant stress of holding the place together. Still, I didn't think it would go the way it did. I came in the next morning, ready to face whatever punishment was waiting for me, but instead of a conversation, I was met by another manager who casually informed me that I'd been removed from next week's schedule. They still expected me to finish out the week, though how convenient for them. It was a classic move. Really, they wanted to fire me, but they didn't want to deal with finding coverage for the shifts. So, they expected me to keep showing up, smiling, and working, all while knowing I was already fired. I remember just standing there, my heart pounding in my chest, feeling the weight of 3 years of loyalty crumble in an instant. I looked around the store, at the place where I'd spent so much of my life, and I realized that I didn't owe them anything anymore. So, what did I do? I walked out. I wasn't going to waste another second of my time there. If they wanted to fire me, they could deal with the mess themselves. Fast forward about 3 months, and I get a text from an old coworker, one of the few who were still left after I left. Turns out, the company was shutting down. They were going out of business. And honestly, when I read that text, I couldn't help but laugh. It felt liberating, ironic. Really, here they were, firing one of their best employees. Yeah, I'm not afraid to admit I was damn good at my job, and now they couldn't even keep the business afloat. Apparently, things went downhill fast after I left. The new workers were terrible. My boss was scrambling to hold things together, and the whole place was a mess. My coworker even told me that my boss had called me a few times, probably to beg me to come back. I never answered. I didn't want anything to do with them anymore. They'd already shown me how little they valued my work, and I wasn't about to go running back to help clean up their mess. It's funny when I think back on it now. I had actually quit once before, months before they fired me, but they begged me to come back because they couldn't find anyone else to replace me. And, like an idiot, I went back because I was struggling financially and couldn't find another job. I thought maybe things would be different, but they weren't. They just used me until they didn't need me anymore. At the time, getting fired felt like the ultimate failure. I'd given this company everything, my time, my energy, my effort, and they threw me away over something as small as 15 minutes. But looking back, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Getting fired wasn't the end of the world. It was the universe giving me a much-needed shove in the right direction. Now, I'm in a way better place. I have a job that actually respects me, pays me what I'm worth, and gives me real benefits, something my old job never even came close to offering. My workload is manageable, and I'm not constantly stressed out. It's like night and day compared to where I was. So, yeah, getting fired sucked at the time, but it also opened doors I didn't even know existed. If you've ever been fired or rejected, don't let it break you. Sometimes, rejection is just redirection. It's the universe telling you there's something better out there, waiting for you. And honestly, The fact that the company went under after they fired me, I can't help but feel like it's a little bit of karma.
Follow for more stories.